ai pā I got it wrong here. Hang on. Tell you what. Right. Ai pā e tō mātai matua nui te rangi, whakaaro nui ai a tātai mātau, whakaaro rawai i ngā tūāhuatanga pākaha mai anō ai, ki tēnā o tātai mātau. No reira nā hai, whai kupu ai, ki mua ki tō aroaro, kua tae ai nei, ki mua tonu ki a koe, ki te whakanui, ki te kawe tonu anō i ngā kōrero nunui o te wā, e pātu ana nei tēnei o hapu iwi tēnei o tangata me ki i roto i te onehe. I roto i te onehe, ko koe tonu tō nātua, tō nātua tuatanga, te mea, te whai tō mua anō, ke anō o ai wā tuatanga, epa, e tō matamatua nui te rangi. I e hōwia, nā, whai, atu anō ai i ngā tūāhuatanga i roto anō i a tātou mātou he whai nei ki meki i te whakauauatanga me te mō rika anō i roto i a tēnā, ai tā tēnā. E no reira nā a mātou, whakahetia anō ai, whakaaro nui ke atu anō ai, mahara noi ho anō ai, e pā kia koe nā tautonu ana, e noho tonu ana mai, ki roto ki a tātai mātou, ai ngā wā katoa ai te ao, ai te pō, e no reira nā whakamue miti whakanui. Ai tā i e hiuhi mene, ka piti hono, ka tātai hono, ko rātau nā te mate tonu ki a rātau. Ka piti hono, ka tātai hono, ko tātai mātonu anō tēnei tātau, te kānohi ora ki a tātau. Kua kara hui manu ai ngā kōrero taunaha tūpuna, taunaha whenua, ngā kōrero whakataunga i te kreme. Me ki o te wā, o te rā, ienei rā, e kreme tiana e mātau. I roto i ngā tūāhuatanga, i roto i ngā whakaritenga ana hoki i tā te karauna. Ki tā ngā mea e tino whakaitiana anohia, taitoko tiana tonuhia, e te tika, e te tikanga, e te kawa. Koe anō te nui karakau i te tino taitoko, karakau i te tino whakaitia, kai te pai, karato tonu anō mātau, kua utonu anō mātau, kua maioti tonu anō mātau ki roto ki ona whakaritenga kia whai ai, kia tino whai, whai roroa tonu anō ai hoki i ngā tūāhuatanga i te kreme nei, i te whai tonu anō i te āhuatanga ki ngā taunaha-nahatanga, tūpuna taunaha-nahatanga, whenua o rā tauma. O rā tauma. Ka waiho, e rā katoa, ka waiho I ho mai anua I kia tatau matau ki ni rā. No reira nau mai haere, piki, haramai, tēnā rā tatau, a mauri ora, kahuri, ai, kia ora mai anō rā tatau, yes, we happy to be representing the Eastern regions now, the EasternDivide, the OureeEKomao today, and looking again at TeTiriti, the old mani, the Magna Carta, e tātou mā, from the point of view of the aftermath, what happened afterwards, a little bit more detail on exactly what was happening there around seniorities, because I mean, what you'll notice about a lot of the research that we bring forward today, a lot of the kōrero that we produce for you today, you're going to notice the differences between the Pākehā research, their researchers, and you've probably noticed that already in a lot of our kōrero where we've produced evidence mai te taha ki te Pākehā. Look, e tātou mā, we have much evidence as well that is tūturu tonu hoki, ao kōhati tonu hoki, e rā tū āhuatanga katoa, I te hohonitanga no ki o ngā mātua, o ngā tūpuna, I te āhuatanga ki a rātau, I te wāno ki a rātau. Okay, so in their times, you know, they shared their whakaaro, they shared exactly what was happening for them over their times, and so a lot of the years and dates that we've stipulated for you. And aroha mai e tātou mā, running late again, I can't stand that actually. I can't really stand that, because it sometimes it can put me off my kōrero too. So I'm very aware of that, so I try to slow myself down where there is a necessity that I have to rush. I try to slow myself down as well. But no excuses. I admit to sometimes being in far too many places at once and having to be, and sometimes, but these days it's a lot more critical to get there. But then there's a lot more I'm having to deal with also. There's a lot more burden that I don't want to go into that I'm having to deal with as well at this time. Rather heavy stuff that's keeping me from being as quick and actually early, which is usually actually most of our videos. I mean, right through many years now, we've been posting the lives. I've been representing and fronting for our Hapu iwi, and I think most of actually our kōrero, you'll find, in fact, the overwhelming majority, I'm there well before time. So, but no excuses still. But I can't stand being in a hurry. So whilst I'm stressing out and trying to get to the place of kōrero, look, I admit to actually slowing myself up and having to. Otherwise, all sorts of things can go wrong for us by the time I get to the point of kōrero. Because when you're rushing like that, it can make you panic unnecessarily. Te pō nā huki o ku whakaaro I etahi wā. I think it's a part of being a PTSD as well. I mean, you having difficulties coping with trauma and that sometimes, and some of that I'm actually trying to cope with at the moment. So, but e tātou mā, that doesn't take away any of the significance of our kaupapa that we're carrying these days. I do try my hardest. I honestly, deep down in my heart, I try my hardest. There are some things I worry about, though, that our kōrero, that our reo and everything gets in the hands of the wrong people. What I'm hoping is that people make note that those not welcome to any of our reo or our kōrero are well aware of that fact and do not partake or take of any of our reo, etc., etc., etc. Like just as what's happening for our reo hapu iwi, that we've still got on hold. It's a shame. A lot of our people overseas are really dying for that. They really want that. There are a lot of our Cushite people, a lot of our African brethren and sisters, a lot of our whānau. In fact, they are whānau. You know, they're family. They're family. And and speaking of family, whānau is going to become a part of our major primary kaupapa kōrero as well. So look out for that. We're going to start to focus on the whānau because as hard as we've tried, as much as we've tried, we've really gone to the limits. And in fact, they've asked us to go even further, and we just couldn't go any further. But we've tried our hardest to work with the gangs. This is what the problem is, and what's given rise to this kaupapa on a focus on whānau, because here we are. We're talking about uri whānau uri, we're talking about hapu uretārewa, we're talking about uretārewa, hapu whānau uri, and we're talking about hapu iwi whānau uri, and we're talking about hapu iwi as well. And we're getting to know all of those entities and taonga tuku iho in depth. We're getting to know them all immaculately, and there's so many people who don't even know what a whānau is, and don't even know, and have lost the ability to know. They think they do. They have a vague idea of what that might be. They know it revolves around a togetherness and a brotherhood and a sisterhood and a parenthood and an authority in there somewhere. But they don't actually understand the entirety of the concept or what its major aims are. They tend to have a feudal way of thinking around all of those concepts. They tend to have a feudal way of dealing with things, and this is the gangs, and so just to add to that, we've ended up flicking all the gangs, because we've just ended up with so much trouble with the gangs. We don't want to operate anymore with gang presence. If there are gangsters in our hapu iwi, a part of our hapu iwi, they'd have to do that without the gang around. They can be part of the hapu iwi, that's fine, but the gang presence, we're not going to put up with that anymore. And we've taken express steps, and we're going to take more further steps in order to ensure that the gangs are not a part of any of our regions from here on, any of our land regions in the country. And so that gave rise to the whānau. Maybe that can be sort of like a way of helping the gangs. Maybe they might want to improve themselves in future. I don't want to go into any of the take. I don't want to go into any of the matters, but they're very, very heavy. And this has been a lot of the problem I'm having to deal with and listen to and try to palate and consciously and subconsciously understand and comprehend even some of the heaviest take that you can think of. However, that's my job. That's what I have to do, and I have to make a decision one way or the other to exactly what we will do about all these take, and move forward and move the iwi, hapu iwi forward, and continue to be the successful and the powerhouse hapu iwi that we are, not just in the country e Taunaha. Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura, hapu iwi is a success already right throughout the world. I mean, I just gave you a bit of a clue on that, where a lot of our, we've got 48 nations right across the world that we have descent lines through, intermarriage through, and also a number of those are of our customary most direct origins in ancestry. Okay, so yeah, be well aware of that many, I mean, we number about 20 million easily in the world. This is why, I remember a number of times I have mentioned that I've never worried about numbers or trying to get our reach, high, SEO and stuff like that. It doesn't worry us, because we already know how many we are in the world and how many we are in the motu. Okay, and we're huge. It doesn't matter where we look, we're huge, and we're within a 1.8 million plus population region of land in the country, and could expressly be more. Okay, we haven't had another count up yet since our last lot of claims were finalised. We've just recently got our amended SOC in that we think may very well be the final. There may be some reviews and updates and proofreads and edits, not proofreads and edits, but edits indeed, at some point in the future, but by and large, we think our SOC, our statement of claim, would be pretty much the final. Finally, we've got to the final of our SOC, our statement of claim for Y2225, and that revolves around the TeTaiRawhitiAukatiTai, or the Moki Ou claims as well, which claim to the whole of the Southern Divide, minus those lands taken by the incoming conquering tribes that came in through en route via the musket wars. Okay, e tatama. So yeah, whānau, in a particular focus on whānau, has become a big topic of late within Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura hapu iwi, because one of the things we pride ourselves on is our ability to be successful in most areas of our space, and suddenly we're faced with a failure. It wasn't us that failed, largely, by and large. It was the other groups, the gangs, that failed by and large. But we weren't able to achieve what we wanted to. We wanted to achieve a very whānau-friendly, a whānau-driven interrelationship with them. That was intimate on a level, personal on a level too, because we have to remember they're people too. So often we hear people demonizing, especially the media. Straight away they demonize them. Okay, they're guys that have moved out of the normal realms of life, of whānau. But this is the thing they don't understand. They've moved out of those processes, see? And they don't realize is that their concept of whānau now, as soon as they moved out of those processes, out of those spaces, it changed to a gang way of looking at that, which is totally different to what whānau truly is. So, yeah, we're going to focus a bit on that. Not that we're sad. We're not sad. We just feel, well, every failure, we have a good look at it. And we have a good look at reasons why. We don't overthink it, but we make sure that we understand why we failed there. And why, in the process of thinking that we could be able to meet the demands and needs of the gangs, we think by and large, largely, majoritarily and overwhelmingly, they couldn't meet ours. They couldn't be whānau, as whānau is, whānau within the realms of, I hate to say it, normal whānau, or the usual whānau, and there, even today, in the modern day, there are some very, broad and acceptable concepts around what that is. We'll look at the traditional as well, which are not that much different. They're not that much different. Legally, there's probably a lot more heavier stuff in the tūturu side of things, in the customary side of things around whānau. Today, things are looked upon a little bit differently. Yeah, you've got some alignments in there that are aligned somewhat to what tūturu whānau is, but they don't quite meet the grade. This is something that we've cited there, and perhaps is a problem with our society, and some of the reasons why a lot of our young people, they go astray like that. They end up in the gangs. They've gone outside of the normal realms of whānau, and they've started on a road that's led them ultimately to continually doing wrong, messing up. And that's what we had from the gangs. I mean, we've had 35 years of the mob. So that's going back well before Tahumakakanuimatua even officially got on the road. At inception, that was about 27 years ago, going on 28 now. And so 35 years, a whole heap of trouble from the mob. That's a long time to put up with that. But part of that was the problem with, in fact, the largest part of that, which goes back about 15, 16, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24. Oh, sorry, about 10 years. 10 years off that 34, 35 years. 10 years off that has been largely because of our own people, and namely people that are part of the top whānau. And this is the problem. This is one of the problems, is that they don't really understand who they're dealing with, what they're dealing with, and how they should deal with it. They just think, they just class you all in the same category, and that's how you get dealt with, regardless. And that's, things like that need to change, and exactly what they do is totally feudal. So a lot in there is due to what we would call trauma on a massive scale. So a lot of our people are dealing with the trauma of colonization. That's where a lot of that has come from. And so a lot of these gangsters don't realize, but ultimately the way they do things, the way they act, how they talk even, is colonized, hugely colonized. And it's easy to see by the outcomes of what they do, the outcomes of what they say, their whole outlook on life, the arrogance. I mean, arrogance like that is not being seen in the world of our country since the Crown first got into the country. They were just flat arrogant. You know, you couldn't even talk to them about anything else except for what they thought. And they were superior. They always were superior. Gangs are the same. They can do what feudally they like. Gangs are the same. See, you look at the parallels there, and you've got to be worried about that mix. But you've got to blame the Crown. This is the other thing. I want to make a point on that, just in case the gangs think, oh, we were doing all these sorts of things on purpose. We're actually purposely trying to look at building into relationships with the gangs to try to work with them, not against them, but with them. And these gangs stuffed up 35 years there for the mob, and it's probably been even longer for the Black Power. But a lot of the problems with the Black Power have only come in the last, it happened real quick, say the last 6 or 7 years. So everything happened real quick and it piled up, something chronic, and because sometimes they were teamed up with mob, the mix didn't go down well. And it's a lot of what they've done, and that's why I don't want to go into the take, because they're very deeply hurtful take for me personally, and also for a lot of our whānau. For the top whānau, yet again, the top whānau keeps getting hit by these gangs. Why? Because we believe there's a deep jealousy amongst a lot of them, and a lot of them have always been on the side with kahunu rangitāne in the process over years. And here they are thinking that they can build a rapport in the process, in the Crown process, and play a big part in there. And they've, over those last 6 to 7 years found out that that's not possible. And there you go. That's a whole lot. When gangs fail, they go all out to desperately try and find a way to get back onto the road to success, and they can't find that. See? They can't find that. And I put up with gangs all my life, so I could just about say all my life, this has been a problem. But I'll go back 35 years, because most of the key things that happened to me in my life that have been hugely traumatic, and here we are with a heart full of aroha for them. We try our best, and this is what we get, We feel sorry for a lot of our other whānau out there, a lot of our other hapu iwi who have tried their best as well, just to get really, really hurt by these people who have forgotten what it's like to be civil. And our tūpuna mātua were civil, see? Regardless of how we might think. Very powerful at war, yes. Very powerful warriors, yes. But very, very civil warriors as well. Okay, very lawful warriors as well. We weren't like the gangs. No, that's like the Crown. That's like the Crown. And it could be very much like the Crown as well. But we've yet to evidence all of that. Okay, so a lot of those kaupapa are coming up e tātou mā, and for the main, with regards to our, I don't want it to go on any longer. Yeah, I've had enough, and I think when my gut instinct, when I make a decision like that, and wherever my gut instinct is, I usually will go along with that. Why? Because usually I'm not far wrong from the right step to take. I'll look at kōrero with others, take some advice, and move forward, make a decision, and away we go. Or sometimes some of those processes can't be followed, so a decision needs to be made. Otherwise, it could be to the detriment of people, of kids. For instance, kids have been hurt hugely in the process. Even almost killed. Okay, so that's how dangerous it gets with the gangs. If they're going to try and say in amongst all of that, oh, they were just pretending, forget it. they can forget it, the gangs. And we're not going to go back on that. So throughout all our rohe whenua, rohe whenua e Taunaha, sorry, all of our rohe whenua from right throughout the country, all of our lands, all our land regions, we won't allow the gangs by law. By law, we are able to move on the gangs and ship them out. Okay, and in future we will depend on military, and the military largely will do a lot of our work where we can't do that, working in unison with the police. Okay, and that's just to keep the law. Our rangatira are looking forward to working with our communities in order to keep the law. What we're looking forward to is actually being able to do that a lot more safely and securely and successfully. But some of, there's a lot of deep sadness that, it feels like that we've lost touch with all those who are in the gangs. Well, I disagree with that. I disagree with that deep down. I think we haven't lost touch. I think they have. I think they've lost touch. I think the gangs are way off track. They've been going that way for years, and they're going to continue to go on that road for as long as they remain arrogant and colonized. Stay on that road. Okay? It's up to them. But they, at the end of the day, just for want of a way of putting it, they make their own bed. And at the end of the day, when you make your own bed, you know for a fact you've got to lay in it. You've got to lay in it, and that's your bed. That's what you made. That's what you did. You can't blame anyone else. You can't, except for some of the, I take on board, because it's been really, we've been really sensitive too about that kaupapa of, the state care, and where a lot of those that have ended up in the gangs, a lot of those claims are thank the Lord for all those claims and those sensitive claims and the ability for the gangs and their lawyers to be able to get one up on the Crown in that area. We would love to say that they could do the same in this space. But it's really hard to put a finger on, really. It's really hard, to really say hand on heart that it would. That's difficult, because whilst claims are going on, if take keep coming up, and this was constant over 35 years, constant take kept coming up, constant take, and sometimes real major ones, real heavy ones, so traumatic that they'll probably never ever leave some of these victims, a lot of the traumas that the gangs have caused them. And it's just sad. It's so sad. And also, a lot of the reasons why the gangs are like that and they treat people like that is because of Crown actions, Crown omissions, Crown dealings, the way that they've dealt with us, especially over those 100 years. 1840s into the 1940s, 1950s and 60s. That's where all the desolation started to appear of our people. That's where a lot of this stuff comes from. And in fact, from what I know about the gangs, that's when they were born. Around the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s. The gangs started to come out in this country. So there you go. At the point of the most desolation of our people in the country. Okay, I never planned that, but I just thought I'd go into that a bit. And so we are looking forward to working now without the gangs. We're not going to reconsider that. We're not going to review that. We want the gangs to stay clear of all our land regions, and to allow for our people, to allow for our children, to allow for our mokopuna to grow safely, and to grow without this gang sort of culture that says that they can do what they want to anybody who seems to be, just because we're Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi, mob thinks, oh, we're all black power. And okay, although we had whānau that were black power, they thought, oh yeah, they can smash over kids, they can be violent and abusive to our kids, and they can stand over them and do all sorts of things, like even sick dogs onto them and make them try and fight for their life against dogs. Yeah, these are like wild dogs, Alsatians sometimes. This is what some of the things that they were doing. And if they're going to try and say that that was pretending, I want the gangs to understand that that was not pretending. There was absolute abuse. It was continual, and a lot of the abuse from, we're talking about a particular child there, a lot of that abuse went on for around 10 years before it actually started to stop. Just looking at that time frame is where we get to realise what abuse is like. That's what abuse is. A time frame of that magnitude, even 2 months, 3 months, a week. Abuse is abuse. Where it becomes constant like that, and with a prolonged time. Even one of the take that have come up recently, where black power concerned, I mean, one of those take have lasted, so serious. And the black power member, he's part mob too, he even went to jail for it and still carried on. He still carried on with the abusive way in which he wanted to treat a particular woman. It's these sorts of take, and before I start getting into them, because I'm saying, these are a lot of the take I'm dealing with at the moment, and other things as well that have weighed heavily on my mind. And funny thing about this space, sometimes you can make enemies that you don't even intend to, but they just see you as, they're so jealous, so taken up with envy. They see you as a barrier in the way of success for them, and they can't handle that. Instead of finding other ways to deal with their problems, they go all out to try and get rid of you. Now, they don't realise this, but I know some of these things are going on. So we're dealing with a lot of those take as well. And we mean get rid of them in terms of murder. We're talking about murder there. Okay, you understand that? So we're dealing with a lot of the worst kind of take in the motu. And we've tried our hardest. Good for us. None of the gangs anywhere, we don't care which chapter we're talking about, we don't care which region we're talking about, where there are Tahumakakanuimatua or Tutura lands, and they have a particular gang culture in there, their gang culture is out of there. Okay, we don't care which gang it is now. Alright, and so I just wanted to, just before we get into our kōrero, we're doing fairly well for time as well, because our kōrero we can still take in to the next couple of hours. It's okay, I suppose, if we go a wee bit over, but I don't think I will do that today. And the simple reason being is because, we've already gone through almost an hour already e tatauma, and so we have 1 hour left. We can still squeeze a lot of our kōrero, and we've always got next week. Okay? Good to have that āpiti kōrero as well, that added kōrero as well, because it was hugely important, and some of what's weighing me down at the moment. And for me, it's not just about meds. Yeah, it's not just about meds or my wellness, my well-being. Everyone knows I'm a PTSD. I also am an SLE, and I also deal with high blood pressure and what is it? I'm a pre-diabetic. Yeah, so all those sorts of things. There's depressives in there as well. And PTSD on its own is very, very tough to have to deal with. So sometimes it takes a lot of care, and sometimes it even feels like you're being a bit too precious, but you're not. Yeah, and that's the way I have to treat it. That's the way I have to treat it. So yeah, sometimes it can take up a bit of my time. However, today we've got to stick to the 2-hour time limit that we have, and we started round about quarter past. Oh, sorry. We we started about quarter past 12, quarter past 20 past 12, and we're just rolling up to that now. We're about a quarter of an hour away from 20 past 12. But we can still fit in our kōrero for today. Aroha mai e tātou mā. I know you're very, very determined to get hold of the kōrero on TeTiriti, on the Old Money, on the Magna Carta. But believe you me, just as important are a lot of the take surrounding our claims, surrounding what we do as an Hapu iwi authority. A lot of people might say, oh, we're very, very brave to try that. Well, it's the sort of environment that a lot of us have grown up in. It's partly what's made me who I am. You know, I've had to learn the hard way what not to do and what not to get into. And to put up with a lot of those pressures. But believe you me, you get to learn that none of that is scary. I mean, a lot of people out there, they look into a life like that. I mean, I grew up with the gang, but a lot of people look at a life like that and they get scared straight away. Well, that's not the scary thing. It's when they turn blowy. That's the scary part. Okay? Okay, because as soon as a gang or a number of gangs, for us there's about 3. I thought there was a 4th one, but I'm sorry, I keep saying there's a 4th one, but there's a relative to a 4th one. But yeah, there's always been 3 of them, and yeah, it's been not so I guess you learn how to survive. You learn how to be tough when you need to be. And that's the thing with me. I learned how to be tough when I need to be. Any time when I didn't need to be, well, I didn't bother. And I couldn't be bothered with a lot of their troubles anyway. And I sort of, and I walked the other way. But yeah, did I end up in scraps? Of course I did. Of course I did. But, I mean, you can't not. And you can't be afraid otherwise, you know. You don't get to learn how to stand up for yourself, and you just have to. You just have to. Okay? And like I said, that's not the scary part. The scary part is actually when they go blowy. And they went blowy and have been blowy for quite some time. And that's, you know, again, it ties back into all of that colonization stuff. They're colonized because A, they're arrogant, B, they've got this gang culture that aligns with one way, and that's just that way, and they won't shift or move or diversify or do anything about that. They'll stick to that. Okay, region by region they might diversify, but that doesn't change anything. That doesn't change anything. Okay? That doesn't change anything about how we should look at the gangs. Because it's where the majority lie. And the majority lie within the gang culture, within the alignments of the actual acceptance of what the culture of the gang accepts. And we know that. We learn that. Those of us who have grown up around the gangs, we know that. We learn that real quick. See, so gangs, even though some regions are different, like Waikato might be a bit different to most other regions of mob or black power. Okay? But that doesn't excuse any of them in any other regions where they're not. And Waikato might do things a wee bit better than most, and a wee bit more acceptably than most. But that still doesn't change anything. We're not going to change anything. And that's the thing with anything, especially in this space. Once you make a decision, you got to stick to it. You got to know what you're deciding. You got to know the space, and you've got to know that once you make a decision, it's going to affect you and your positioning and where you're at and where you are within a certain area of the space forever, if it doesn't ever change. And most of our decisions we've made like that, hugely priority, critical decisions we've made like that, are decisions that have been so vital to the lifeblood of our Hapu iwi, that all those decisions, once we've made them, we've stuck to them. And they've done us very, very well. And this is part of the reason why we're so successful, is because our decision making is massively professional, massively processed, put through processes. The way that we operate steamily is customary. Customary Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi, and it does not diverge from that. Okay? But we're not arrogant, see? We can diversify, we can diverge a little if we need to. We can we can make allowances, we can, because our tupuna did from time to time. Very rarely, but they did from time to time. Because our culture was so adaptable, you can't tell me that they didn't diversify from time to time. They did. They did. Some people are too arrogant today, too colonized today to see for things like that. And so they try and make out they're so tuturu, more tuturu than everybody else. And they keep sticking on the same thing. No. Yeah. Sometimes it's good to have change, because you need change. And change is vital in any business, in any organization. It's a vital, critical part of life. And you need to go through change. And probably is one of the biggest things necessary for the gangs. They need to go through. We know they're going through a lot at the moment. But obviously there's a lot more for them to do. There's a whole lot more. I don't really have many words to describe the state of the gang, some of the things they do, and they actually think it's funny. You know what? I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that. No one's having fun with any of this stuff. No one's enjoying any of this stuff. So if they are, then they've got a screw loose somewhere. They got a penny missing somewhere up top there, if they're laughing at all that stuff, because it ain't funny. You know, it makes me sort of think, well, should we all turn around and laugh at them being in state care and all the crap they've been through? Should we laugh at them? Because that's the same thing. That's the same thing. I would suggest the gang stop laughing, because they're going to keep paying and paying and paying. And this is, the cycle that they get into. Being so colonized, they don't realize they keep putting themselves through the same negative the outcomes are negative, the consequences are negative, everything is fail, 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 fail. When are the gangs going to get onto a periphery that'll take them to success? Okay, they might need to change their arrogant ways and to change the way they align their kaupapa of their gang, because they need to be able to put up with change. No organisation can survive and succeed without change, which is probably why Waikato is such a good example of some of the successes that gangs can have. Okay, they're not perfect, but they're an example of a gang that tries to change, and they do make change, and some very good change. But yeah, I guess it's a little bit like the Crown. You know, the Crown has tried to change, even with the funny thing. It's so the irony is unbelievable. Of late, I've seen a side of the gangs that I would swear the gangs and the Crown, one and the same thing. I'd swear. And they might get offended at me saying that, so sorry about that. But I do. I'm being honest. I've been looking at the gangs. I've been thinking, wow. I wonder if they realise the way the Crown treated us, same thing, the way they're treating people. Let's hope they snap out of it someday. We wanted to try and help them, but yeah, obviously we couldn't be whānau with them, and so we failed in that. And we're not worried about that. We just are looking for better outcomes, more successful outcomes for them. And we know we can, where tribes do continue to put up with the gangs and their lands, that's fine. If we need to help them out in some small way, we'll try and help them out. Otherwise, we don't want any more to do with it. Yeah, because of some of the attacks, and most of the attacks have been on our top whānau, and that's not happening at Taunaha. I mean, every whānau is important, but when we're talking about the top, you know, the top in any hapu iwi, you know, you just don't do that. You just don't do that. You don't mess around with the top. You know, in former times, one little scratch on the top, you got hammered to pieces. You got hammered to pieces. Such was the law. This is why I've stated openly sometimes that the law system of old was hugely far harsher and more deeply and personally penalizing than any of the laws or the makeup of the law systems that we have running in the country today. Far harder, far harsher than anything. I mean, one little scratch on the top whānau, and you were, yeah, good as a servant for the rest of your life. Okay, problem is we've got too many idiots with control of the karakia today. So we can't operate within the law system properly today. Too many idiots holding on to them. And we know that. And we know that those idiots are doing a lot of damage out there. And in fact, a lot of them are gang. They're gang, a lot of them. Tūhoe as well. They're a lot of the worst in the country. Breaking the law everywhere. There's no conversations being had. There's no interpretations of the law happening. There are no consents going on. Just a whole lot of idiots who think they've got a right to do whatever they like, and away they go. They're hammering people, and these people don't even deserve it. Okay? And a lot of what they're doing to them is just crazy. You know? And it's going to be a crazy world if we allow this sort of thing to continue to happen. And quite frankly, we've had enough. So it's all out with the gangs. Out with all the gangs. We're talking about all of them. Bikies included. We know there are bikies around some of our regions. They'll have to get out of there. No gangs. No gangs are going to be permitted in any areas of Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura, Hapu, Iwi from here on. Okay, and but looking at that TeTiriti, looking at the end results, pretty sad, eh? It's pretty sad. Some people have said that they sort of wondered whether what the seniorships did during the first signing of TeTiriti, what those seniorships did, whether it was really called for, whether they could have been a little bit more measured or less, or a little bit more calculated or less also. And we've said to them, well, look, as much as it looks like that, I wouldn't dispute that the Crown was going to do something close to what they did do. Yeah. So, I wouldn't dispel that fact. Yeah. So some of those people were worried that it was the seniorships and the fact that they didn't sign it or that made the Crown upset, that they started to treat everyone like that, got rid of the seniorships, te mea. Kai te he tēnā kōrero. Okay? That's not the case. Okay, so we're going into a bit more detail there. Oh, yeah, just so happy and passionate to share all that with you, and we'll hear a bit more of that. Probably when we come back into TeTaiRawhitiAukatitai, the West, we'll share a bit more around that. But until then, we won't share any. In the South, in a couple of weeks, we've got the SOC coming in. So we're going to share the amended SOC and the final SOC for Tahumakakanuimatua Hapu Iwi, o Tutura Hapu Iwi, and we'll share that with you. This is the one before the tribunal at the moment, before the registrar, and that will have, if it hasn't already, soon our lawyers' endorsement and all the rest of what we're trying to aim for, fully up and in support and being reinforced with that in terms of settlements. Wairarapatara Hirataunga Wairua, we've still got the Muau Poko we're looking at, and Horo Whenua and Porirua ki Manawatu and Te Whanganui o Rotu, Te Whanganui Atara, and also in the north, our northern claims. Obviously our lawyer, a long time working in the north, but she is taking over our, and she has opted to take over our entire claim. Okay, so yeah, she's not just working the north for this claim, but in the north there are 3 areas of settlement in there, which in each of those settlements, I do believe she will still move to make sure that we're part of those settlements, since we have land claims and rights and interests in each of those areas. Okay, that is the far north, te Murirawa, Whenua, and then te mea nei, the mea nei, I've just forgotten the name. Yeah, all that area from Kaitaia down, all the way down, and Pewhairangi, the Bay of Islands, Hokianga, all the way down into Nukutawhiti, Matawaia, all those areas. We're in all those areas as well. And then you get into Tahumakakanuimatua province, Auckland province, and we're in the north, east, south and west of all those areas, along with Moai Hapu, along with Te Awa Hapu Iwi, Moai Hapu Iwi, and also along with a lot of our uri, whānauri, and Uretārewa Hapu whānauri. Yeah. So there are another 3 settlements to be had there. yeah, and I guess the one that we're looking at the moment is the 6th in Horowhenua, Porirua ki Manawatu and Meone. They're also part of the north, Maiupoko. They'll be thinking hard about that, and also part of Wellington area. That's the whanganui orotu, the whanganui atara to us. We still call it by its tūturu name. One of its tūturu names is the whanganui orotu, the whanganui atara. Okay, and we know of a tūturu name, but we don't want to bring that name up until later on in the piece. And it's from this name that we get to know our originality in the area. And we will bring that name forward later on, so that the name of the whole of the Wellington area, including the west, up to Manawatu Whanganui, that we get to bring that old name back for the Wellington area, a name from well before the times that the colonizer started to take over and reinterpret the narrative and bring in a crown narrative that threw everything out of proportion and off course and destroyed the tūturutanga within our regions. Okay, and so e Tatauma we have in the north there's Te Nukurua. So we have Te Nukurua. We don't want to go by Paparahi o Te Raki. We don't feel that that's a suitable name. We've gone on for long enough talking about Te Paparahi. But if we have to refer to Pe Whairangi within the claims process, within the actual system, as Te Paparahi o Te Raki, that's fine with us. But to us it's always been Te Nukurua Raro, Te Nukurua Runga, and that's where Tahumakakanuimatua comes in, and Te Nukurua Runga. Okay? And so Te Nukurua Whakararo, Te Nukurua Whakarunga, and Te Muri Rawa, Muri Whenua, and Tahumakakanuimatua. Yeah, those are our regions in the north there, our tutu ones that we understand have always been upheld by our tūpuna mātua in those areas. But back to our seniorships, no. Kei te he tēnā kōrero e Tatauma, there's no way that we can dispel the fact that something similar is what the Crown had planned anyway. But yeah, they were sore, very, very sore, and it's part of the reason that they held up in the north. A little bit suspicious though, don't you think, that they would not move out in the process into the actual country. You know, the big deal that they made in the first signing, why didn't they take that same big deal out into the rest of the country? Look at all the signings that they did right throughout the country. There's so very many. Did they not think of them as important? We think that that's partly the case. They thought partly that they weren't as important, and they were really begrudgingly hurt and upset that they couldn't get those seniorships. So a lot more work in the north. They did a lot more in the north. Majoritarily over that whole 7 months, and possibly just gave up. They just gave up and thought, oh, bugger it. We'll bring the Crown in, the New Zealand Crown Corporation, and let them take over and do the deed, do the damage, do the henchman work. And they were basically their henchmen. You couldn't dispute that, because of the way that they operated, and gradually, all but slowly and gradually, things started to take shape in the country. It's amazing some of the excuses that they have along the way as to why they're taking lands and why they're jailing our ancestors. All of the excuses excuses right throughout the country is unbelievable. And it's this sort of detail that we will get into within our publications. Don't forget, over the next 5 years, look out for the whole 7 of our publications. That's including our 2, the Peipera Kurutu, that's the Holy Bible, in Te Reo o Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi, and also the Oweiro Ufakeia, that is the Holy Bible in Te Reo Hapu iwi of Tahumakakanuimatua o Tutura Hapu iwi. That'll be the second one. And yeah, we don't know the timing, so yeah, wait on that. We have to take our time. We'll probably have a better idea sometime from halfway of next year, around about from June onwards, June, July onwards. Next year we will have a better idea of exactly what the timing might be on each one. But at Taunaha, they were really, in a lot of pain. But yeah, they were acting suspiciously because, I mean, and rightfully so, the seniorships, when they did that, they put them through a lot of stress. And this is why they had to hand it over to 2nd, 3rd, and sometimes 4th, servitudinal levels of servitudinal to do the rest of the job. And that's really poor. When you think about it, this is a Crown Westminster entity. These are representatives of the Royals of Westminster. And here they were acting on their behalf in the country, and they passed all this on to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th ranked individuals who were a part of their servitudinal classes. That's what you might as well say here. Because they were utterly feudal in the way they treated people, and that included their own people. They were pretty rough on the missionaries, and they were part of those servitudinals. They were the next line down, and then you had everybody else. Probably those related to the Crown in some way, that were military also in some way related, were also up with the missionaries. And then you had traders, and you had whalers, you had all sorts. Those of them that were a very rare sight in those days. We were very, very happy, very, very lucky to find that some of the Pākehā were in there involved with te runanga ko huiara, te wakaminanga o te runanga ko huiara. Okay, just having all that suspicion on them now seemed, they were gutted. They were gutted at that. All the suspicion could have meant that they failed to get the rest of the motu. But no, they didn't know. But the rest of the motu were actually a lot smarter than they were. Yeah, and they were a little bit bemused at the whole of the situation. But let's not forget, our tūpuna mātua wanted this. But they wanted the goodwill that was in something like this. They wanted the original intentions, and that's what they stood up for. Yeah, so really what came out of that is that they sought to be as ruthless as possible with the seniorships first. That's really what happened. I mean, let's not dispel the fact that what they were originally intending to do was rip us off. This was a heist. This is why I've said to you right at the start, right from the start, let's not make any bones. Let's not make the mistake of trying to think, oh, hang on, the Crown in this country, and this is why we're a little bit suspicious of Westminster. In fact, that little bit has become a lot greater and greater and greater as every year has passed. Okay, next year it'll get worse. And we'll continue to search for that evidence that we need to ensure that we can prove that outright. Especially when you've got you've got a lieutenant, you've got a